we didn't invent anything. I don't think there's really much IP in the database world. The rules of computers have really not changed either, or physics. Like the constraints that we're dealing with in most computer science problems are physics, latency, the speed of light. Like we're all looking at papers that are from the 60s.
How involved are you in that process with the sales team?
Very often I'll be the first person people speak to. Because like, why not? Like there's only much, what else would you do? You hear the best things from customers directly and you learn. Even if we were in the billions of revenue or whatever, I mean, you'd still want to be working on the largest potential deal you can bring in for your company. So I would always be doing that. The open source community is just a phenomenal human achievement. To be able to like bask in the glory of that and use open source in terms of your branding and furthering your company, but holding back the actual license from being an open source license, I think is very wrong.
And we're live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of The Good Thing. Today, we have a very special guest, which I've been really excited to bring on, Sam Lambert from PlanetScale. Sam, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm great. Thank you. How are you?
Awesome. Doing great. Thank you so much for joining us. We really have a lot of topics we're going to be discussing today. And for those of the new viewers that are kind of just sinking in, you guys know Jens. Jens, my co-host, always joining us.
Yeah, I'm also here. Thank you.
Why do we have to intro you? We already know you. But for those of you that don't know Sam, Sam is the CEO of PlanetScale. And before this, he spent years at GitHub and Meta, or as Facebook, where he's been building distributed systems of scales. Some of the things that he's passionate about is technical insights, strong product vision, strong product leadership, and uptime. You might have seen on Twitter, he's very passionate about uptime. But Sam, we're so happy to have you here. How are you doing?
Thank you. No, I'm really good. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Yeah, we're excited. Did I miss anything in the intro? If you want, feel free to just kind of walk us through a little bit if I missed anything. But I think I kind of hit some good points there.
No, yeah, I think you got all of it. I guess I can summarize what PlanetScale is. PlanetScale is kind of now the database platform. We host MySQL databases at hyperscale using Vitess, running some of the world's largest consumer products. And now we have our Vitess product as well, which is, it's two products actually, uncharted and sharded Vitess products that we now have out there in the world.
What's the difference between uncharted and charted?
So yeah, actually, it's a good question. So our current product, so the product that most people know and the largest PlanetScale product is PlanetScale Vitess, which is sharding for MySQL. That's the product that our largest customers run on, and it's always Vitess, right? If you spin up whatever you spin up, you always get a Vitess database, whether you're sharding or not. Our new suite of products for the Postgres world was actually split. So it has an unsharded product, which is the one that's in private GA right now. It's like a private preview, hosting real applications for companies. That's, like I said, available, but it's pure Postgres hosted on our operator with our proxying layer and all of the various things that makes PlanetScale special. And then currently now in development and in a phase working with sort of key customer partners is our sharded Postgres product. So the cool thing about that is, because there's so many people that use Postgres but don't necessarily need sharding, they don't want to deal with the trade-offs that you would get from having a sharding layer in between them and the database. And so we now just provide kind of you directly access or directly through a pooler to a very vanilla Postgres setup. And then the sharding product will put a layer in between that, which gives you some trade-offs, but obviously significantly more scale.
Yeah. So that means regular Postgres on PlanetScale, it's fully hosted by you, but it's like vanilla Postgres, like no special thing.
No, the proxying and pooling layer that we have is special and bespoke to us. The underlying infrastructure that it runs on is also unique. So our operator that allows you to run on Metal nodes inside AWS and inside GCP is kind of one of the secret sauce pieces that we bring to the Postgres world. And if you look at our launch for the Postgres product, we benchmarked ourselves against the sort of current cohort of Postgres hosts, and we demonstrated significantly better performance and throughput with that product by giving you what's kind of good about Postgres. It has some of Postgres' downsides too, but that's fine.
Yeah, for like a very long time, when you were thinking about PlanetScale, you were immediately thinking, okay, it's MySQL, and MySQL with sharding. But it almost felt like a bit there's like a connection of the brand PlanetScale with MySQL, almost like you're against Postgres, but it seems like you're absolutely not against Postgres. You're kind of rebranding to, okay, PlanetScale does relational database at PlanetScale.
Yep. Yeah, basically it's that, right? Yeah, definitely not anti-Postgres. Very excited by working with Postgres and the companies that build on Postgres most specifically. I mean, we can dig into like the core differences that we've already observed between MySQL and Postgres if you are interested. But yeah, basically, we're kind of the database company now, right? In fact, shipping Postgres meant that so many more people reached out asking for us to do other database services. Yeah. We won't be doing that for a while, maybe one day. But right now, we've got a long road ahead in the Postgres world, so we're building there and enjoying ourselves so far.
No, absolutely.
There were so many like players before who did Postgres with sharding. Some were acquired, others were not super successful. Why are you doing this? Like, why is it now the right time to do the same thing that others were okay-ish successfully? Like, why now?
So many reasons. That's actually a really good why now question. So there's the broader pieces that like kind of the Postgres community and market is getting ready for sharding. There's now companies that are running Postgres at some significant scale. It's actually very interesting. I see people, even yesterday I was reading someone talking about an at-scale Postgres workload. I know how large that workload is. I've seen it under NDA and it's not very big. In compared to the size of the MySQL workloads that we see. But they're starting to grow. We've seen a few large-ish, but nothing that's anywhere near the size of the MySQL workloads that we've seen, but it's happening. And every company builds on Postgres, right? So it's coming. Postgres is probably going to go through the same era of the tens that MySQL went through from like 2010 to 2020 in terms of very large and successful companies building on Postgres and it needing to mature and scale to make that happen. But it's like very exciting. And so that's one why now answer. The other is we're doing it very simply. We have built the only generally available large scale sharding solution that's out there. Like there were attempts in the Postgres world before. Architecturally, they were misguided and weren't built to support any really large workloads. And so what we're doing is building from the first principles that we've learned through sharding databases at very extreme scale, applying that to the world of Postgres, building it into the ecosystem that Postgres has, which has some like bits that make that easier, bits that make that harder. And it's just about the way we'll deliver it, and the other side of the coin being the hosting of that, right? So you can build an open source sharding solution, and people have. It's very different than building a solution to run large scale workloads, then open sourcing it, right? And that's what we're doing. We are working with design partners to build sharded Postgres for the scale they're at, and then we get that loop of us directly seeing it and hosting it for them. And then we will open source the byproduct of that, meaning it will be very robust and resilient. I'm following along kind of a couple of open source sharding solutions right now, and they're kind of achieving the kind of spec of what you need to do. But that's very different from battle hardening at scale, which is what we're working on right now.
No, well said.
I'm not a database expert. Stefan, can I continue? Sorry.
You're hijacking. We gotta follow the agenda. The thing is
what's agenda? We're just talking.
Who is Sam? We got to get the background first.
Oh, I'm
Sam, how did you get into databases? Like just for the audience, so they know. Like, how did you get into databases? And then we're gonna get into the nitty-gritty details of tech. Like, how did you end up at PlanetScale? How did you start it? Just like that part.
So I got into databases the same way I think most people do, which is it's the worst problem at most tech companies they work at, and they kind of gravitate to those issues and start fixing them. I was doing that like various different companies, and then I went to a small but growing company called GitHub to be their first sort of database engineering hire. Worked there, eventually became VP of engineering, running like the platform and infrastructure teams there, which is kind of basically everything below the web app, and all, took that to being like the 40th largest website on the planet. Then worked at Meta on the traffic engineering team, which is a significant portion of the internet's traffic, and obviously running at extreme stream scale. And then I came to PlanetScale. PlanetScale was founded out the back of the Vitess project, leaving Google. It was really more of a consultancy and not really a business with a web product, with like a hosted product. So I came to kind of join and build that hosted product, and then took over running the company a little while after joining. And we became very successful. I mean, we went from having just a tiny user base to now just a very, very large user base, and some of the largest relational databases in the world running on the platform, as well as a ton of very large scale kind of consumer platforms that run on top of us. So it's really fun to know that, pretty much every working adult in America or, in the tech industry will interact with products built on top of PlanetScale every single day, which is really cool.
No, well said. Jens, over to you now on the tech questions. Now we got the background out.
Okay. Well, one thing I'm interested in, and I'm not a database expert, but a user. But I read about PlanetScale Metal.
Yep.
And it's very interesting. The graphs you're showing, the performance and everything. Like in very simple terms, why is PlanetScale Metal so much more performant than other database solutions?
So the reason it's more performant is a very simple one, and it's the same thing anyone could achieve on a local server, a server that they rack themselves, is that it just uses the NVMe drives that are inside the server, which sounds like, when you say it like that, it sounds silly and unimpressive. Like, obviously you should use the disks inside your server, but in the cloud that doesn't happen. The main reason it's really impressive that we do it the way we do it is because we're running those bare metal inside AWS and inside Google by using the machines that they use to build their services on top of. And then these machines are ephemeral, so the disks don't stick around. If you're racking your own servers in a data center, you have RAID arrays inside those servers, and you can go and access them if you really needed to get access to the data. We can't. If we deprovision a server, it's gone forever. If it fails, it's gone forever. So we handle all of this state running on ephemeral machines that happen to be extremely fast and much cheaper than the other hosts that you get inside Amazon. And it means that we get this huge performance increase. Like, Aurora and some of the other databases, they disaggregate storage and compute. They separate those things, which means they put a network layer in some form between the server process and the disks, which adds a significant amount of latency to each query. We don't do that, and it makes it a lot faster.
So if I have a PlanetScale Metal database, it runs on a computer. The computer has a local drive that makes it super fast. But what if the computer or the drive fails? Like, is my database, is it then down, or do you have some sort of like HA or?
Yeah, there is no non-HA configuration for this. It's all highly available. By default, you get given 3 nodes when you spin up, so you have 2 replicas. In the instance that you would, if you say lost a primary node, we very, very quickly detect that failure. We throw that node out. We promote the node that's furthest ahead. We have semi-synchronous replication, which means that by the time you write, we know that the write has left to another machine. We then promote whichever of those machines, put the replicas underneath, and then add a replacement node for that primary. And that's all done very, very quickly in the time of failure. Our proxy will buffer and hold off the queries and wait for that to happen, and then send them through to the database when it's done. So we basically, we handle all of that for you to give you high availability without the kind of trade-offs of disaggregating storage and compute.
Okay. And then do you have to deal with problems like you make a write on like a master, and then you get you get it back, it's working fine, and then you make a read request and it wasn't replicated or something, or like, there's like different guarantees you can get from a database, or like, is that like, does it behave like a singular Postgres or MySQL, or other differences in guarantees I can get from such a setup?
Nope, it does. It works like the storage engine below it's supposed to work with replication. That's a core principle of ours. We don't fake out the storage system. Like, there's other scaling solutions for these products that basically re-implement a different storage solution under the hood to allow stronger consistency with significant trade-offs there. But if you write to a master and you require the row on the replica for the same request, if there's replication delay, it may not be there. That's fine and kind of normal, and that's an edge case to deal with any of these types of systems. It's more like to do that kind of guarantee, you then pay a different penalty, which is a penalty that we don't pay because it doesn't really scale and it's not really what our users are looking for.
Okay, so you're at that scale, your users, they have like database usage patterns, like, for example, like massive writes or something where you don't immediately read it. Like, for example, I saw another podcast you did where you were talking about how PlanetScale benefits from the AI boom, and so I could assume, for example, that you have or you could have a customer where people have conversations with an AI, and then you would write the conversation to the database, and that would be like quite write heavy, but not so many reads in that scenario, right?
We do have that, yes, and we have we're very good at write bound workloads. We have a lot of very high scale write bound workloads, whether or not they're AI or not. They store a lot of data. You find that in the consumer space, right? Like most consumer apps are, the only thing that makes them specific to you is the data behind it, right? So they log a lot of things, a lot of transactions, transaction volumes, log lists, or just, data that they're ingesting from other platforms to do training on. That's all stuff that we're very, very good at. And, having the consistency model we have allows you for a much higher writes. We also allow you, when you shard, to have multiple writer nodes, which means you can actually scale up writes. Like one way that people give you that kind of consistency is they do things like serialized isolation, or have single writer threads that mean you kind of enqueue everything behind that kind of isolation patterns, meaning it's slower, but you get that consistency. We don't have that consistency. We go for the performance. There's different to durability. Your data is always there. We've never lost a customer's data. That it's just that kind of trade-off in terms of the multi-node consistency.
The question there, Sam. When you kind of explain it like this, it sounds pretty easy. Like the way you explained in the beginning, like anybody could have done this, but why is nobody else doing this the way you explained it? Like, it seems like from first principles, like, why did no one else think of this? But when you guys came along, you guys did. Like, why is no one else replicating it or trying to copy it?
I think they definitely are. Whether or not they're doing it as well, we didn't invent anything. Like I shared on Twitter a while back that I don't think there's really much IP in the database world. Like we're all looking at papers that are from the 60s. The rules of computers have really not changed either, or physics. Like the constraints that we're dealing with in most computer science problems are physics, latency, the speed of light, all of these failure rates, all of these various factors. We apply a very pragmatic approach to how we deal with these things. And through experience, we've seen the ways that fail. A lot of databases have kind of high hopes of reinventing the wheel when it comes to these kind of architectures. And it just never really works. The history of most large scale database applications end up in the same way, looking the same way, similar ways. And we've provided that in a very generalized manner, which is itself just a really hard task. I mean, operations and good operations, it's not about being kind of fancy and crazy. Like you're not gonna kind of crack the nut on, like, look at, I don't know, advances in airplanes, right? Like the physics of how a wing creates lift is like, it's written, it's done. But now the the operations of making sure there's no single points of failure in that process, and it can continually, and it can do the process over and over again, is the bit that's difficult and takes a lot of knowledge and sedimentary knowledge and layers built up. And that's what we have that makes us pretty different.
Also,
one thing I'm interested in is, so PlanetScale, it, at least from the outside, it looks like you're largely basing on top of Vitess, which is an open source project.
Yep.
Like you said, coming from Google, or my understanding is it was something, it was used for YouTube, right?
Yes.
And so being an open source project, and you are a company hosting that open, like obviously you're doing more than just hosting a project.
We're the maintainers as well, yeah.
Okay, but one of the biggest fears of like startups with open source projects is like, yeah, Amazon could just take Vitess and host it. Like they can probably do it cheaper. They have data centers, etc., etc. Like you probably saw like all this back and forth between like OpenSearch and Elasticsearch and other database companies. Like how are you thinking about this topic?
I think that, you know, there's a world where that's true, that can happen. Vitess is like half of our offering, right? A lot of the stuff that makes PlanetScale really special is not open source. And Vitess is like, it's a code base for the engine of our product, and it's incredibly important to us. And yes, it would be a big step up, like it would be a big benefit to certain companies to go and just take that and use it. And there's people that self-host Vitess at very, very large scale, and it works for them. It's more like, can they replicate how well we operate databases? And they haven't. I mean, we've got multiple public case studies out there of people moving from Aurora or wherever and becoming much, much more reliable on top of our platform. We specialize in databases. Our engineers, some of our engineers have worked at Amazon. There's no secret. They have a lot of money. They can put a lot of people on these problems. But at the end of the day, right, there's expertise at companies like ours that far exceeds what they have, current Amazon specifically. And you look at the current tools they've built, like Limitless. We've moved their largest customer over to us because it wasn't reliable. I literally this morning spoke to another Limitless customer that's not at very large scale, that's also having problems on these platforms. So I'm sure they've had access to the Vitess code base for years. It hasn't really improved anything they do. They could just take the technology and host it. It's only half the problem for them. I don't think their problem is writing the code that could look like Vitess to go and do the stuff. It's a load of other tail factors that impact whether or not they can hurt your business. But there's also just much more coarse-grained, brutal ways Amazon can hurt you than just take the code of what you're doing.
Yeah. What's your current headcount?
55.
55. And how does this distribute across like database operators, or let's say like infra people, or what do you call it, like platform engineering versus like engineers working on the Vitess product or like proprietary products?
And Sam, real quick, 55 with 100% uptime reliability, that is insane. I mean, that is an insane stat. I would love to dig deep into this.
We're very proud of being a small company. We're doing some hiring. We're not going crazy, but yeah, like there's like 2 other very popular Postgres startups, like hosts, have their engineering teams are 3 times the size of ours. And we're very proud of having a very small company and team. These are exceptional people that we have working for us, and we know, like, it's a known thing about our culture that we behave that way. Pretty much every engineer at PlanetScale could be a principal engineer at any other company. We don't really have any engineering titles that way, or it's just everyone's just an exceptionally good engineer that's had a long career at scale, and that's how we achieve this. And if you build good infrastructure, you shouldn't need to throw tons of headcount. Our infrastructure team itself is very small. It's like 4 people. The Vitess team is around 10. The rest break up between what we would call orchestration, which is a large amount of what we do, which is kind of orchestrating database failovers happening. Like there's nothing in terms of how we handle our operations that require a human to be around. Otherwise, we wouldn't have the high uptime that we have. And then we have a small team of people that build this, what they're called the surfaces team, and they build the surfaces that you interact with. They build the app, web app, the CLI, and all the other tooling that you interact with to go and use the platform. And there's like 5 of them. So it's mainly all in orchestration. There's no sysadmin style people, right? Like it's all writing automation that manages the fleet continually. Otherwise, it would not scale, basically.
What's your headcount in marketing and sales?
Yeah, I was going to ask that.
Marketing is 2 people, 2 exceptional people, Ben and Holly. And then our approach to marketing is very different to most companies. Our sales team is 1 sales rep and 2 sales engineers, and they basically are both engineers that work with customers migrating over and helping them plan through how to go and do that and work through any kinks that they're seeing on the, if you're a very large customer, like very, very, very large database install, you spend a lot of time working through making sure you've mitigated all risks and things work well. And we want to do that with them too. And so, yeah, they work with that, and that's it. It's really how a tech company should be, right? Lots of engineers.
So it's all like inbound, and people come to you. They say, "Hey, Sam, do you have a database for me? I have some petabytes of data." And you say, "Yes, we have something," and you figure it out.
We figure it out. Yeah, we don't. The reason we do marketing the way we do is because I don't think there's much, like you go to some other company's website and doing infrastructure, and they have all these flashy animations and hypey stuff. And I mean, what's it for? Any buyer with any money or sophistication is going to want the technical criteria to be put forward, and that's what we do. Like the way we market ourselves is we do very technical blogging content and whatnot. And our blog posts are well known for this now, that go really deep into the kind of things that we find interesting or that our customers might find interesting about databases or general computer science problems. And that's what we do. Really, there's no magic to it.
But Sam, are you involved though? Like, would you say founder-led sales? So you have a big customer that's coming in and you're signing an enterprise contract. How involved are you in that process with the sales team?
If it's a large customer, always. Very often I'll be the first person people speak to. Because like, why not? Like, there's only what else would you do?
Yeah.
I work with engineering to help to like shape how the product should be from what I'm hearing from customers, and speaking to customers and working creatively with the marketing team. You hear the best things from customers directly and you learn, and I think it's just a good way to do it. Like, I don't hop on a call with every customer. That's obviously not possible, but it's really powerful to go and work with our large customers and be very sort of human. And I think even if we were in the billions of revenue or whatever, I mean, you'd still want to be working on the largest potential deal you can bring in for your company. So I would always be doing that.
No, yeah, well said. And then one of the things we've experienced, and I wonder if you've experienced this, is like you get a typical guy at a very big enterprise and he says, well, you're only 55 people. What's if you go out of business or something like that? We've also dealt with that. Have you ever dealt with that while you guys are doing these big things? Or like, well, this company has 300 people. And like, for me, headcount does not equal success. I actually think of it as counterintuitive if you have more people. But have you ever had to deal with that in your sales process?
All the time. And it's much less of a problem now. But in the early days, oh, for sure. You had to you'd sit opposite the CTO of like a public company. And I remember one very specifically said, if you go bust, we go bust. And I was like, and I just, there's only one thing you can do in the moment, which is tell the truth and go, that is true. Yes, I think that might be true. I can't hide that from you, right? Like,
did you win the deal?
Yes, we did. Yeah. You have to be very honest about these things. And, it's less of a problem now that we have so many large companies running on us and we're a profitable business, meaning we don't, for those that don't run a company on this, who are listening to this, if anyone you depend on or yourself are not profitable, right? Like, there's a date where your company could go bust, right? Like, that's just a thing that happens. There's such thing as a cash out date that you think about. We don't really have that, right? In fact, last quarter we had a surplus, even more money than we ever planned that we were going to have that quarter. So we just put that back into hiring and things like this. But when you can show that to companies and show that you have a sustainable business model, they know you're going to be around. And luckily, a lot of people don't really equate headcount with, like, I'll give you an example. Amazon's got thousands of engineers on the competing product to us, and it's outperforming. Our product is outperforming theirs. What's headcount doing for them? I mean, it's worse, right? And so you get over it over time. But yes, I'm not going to say it's not, like, it is a factor, but you then go, it kind of becomes this rolling stone where I'll say to that person, okay, well, why don't you chat to one of the other large companies that runs on us, and they can share that experience. And then when it's a good thing, it just, it goes. One of our recent new companies is one of the fastest growing companies of all time, and they're tiny too. And so it doesn't bother them. They just want, I think we're getting to that world, right? Actually, where we're seeing much more small companies defeating very, very large ones. And I think people like that. And it just shows, it's clearly impressive, right? If this small team of people can do what we do, it's clearly impressive.
No, it's
you said you had a surplus, but you're a VC-backed company.
Yes.
What are the, because I looked a little bit in the past, and there was a moment in the history of PlanetScale where I think you changed a bit the course. You had like marketing people and other things, and you kind of changed a bit. And for a moment I was worried, like, about the future of PlanetScale. It was like, is everything going right? Like it was a weird moment, and so I'm just wondering, like, your investors, they will also have expectations, and first of all, I'm curious about, like, that there must have been like a big shift, and like, as a founder, I'm always interested to learn, like, how did that moment build up, and what happened there, if you can talk about it. And besides, also, like, now with the surplus, like, wouldn't VCs normally say, like, hey, can you burn more money and raise more and then grow whatever, like, yeah, okay, multiple topics.
I think it depends how your company's being valued, right? And if you believe that certain amounts of burning leads to growth, right? So this is more, there's growth, and there's very durable growth, right? You can buy growth. I mean, you just look at we don't do anything silly like post user graphs. If any database companies are measuring themselves by user graphs, very silly, because we have companies that pay us millions of dollars a year, and they have 3 or 4 user accounts on the platform. They have 3 or 4 people that administrate the database. So user growth for a database is indicative of literally nothing. But they're connected up to these vibe coding platforms, and they're giving away free computers at an extreme loss to themselves, and seeing growth, right? Well, I mean, is that growth? Is that durable growth? No. Our VCs are happy that we've built a successful business, an actual business. It's not a business until it makes money, right? Like when you see more money going into the bank than leaves, that is a business. You've conquered really, really tough problems and built a positive gross margin business. Even the bottom end tiers of our product are profitable to us. Like nobody costs us money to run on our platform, meaning that every customer that comes in, it like contributes to the health of the business. Whereas if you're VC funded and burning, you can be VC funded and profitable, or VC funded and burning capital really aggressively to grow, or to get some sort of paper growth that you have to turn into like real growth one day. If you're doing that, then it's very hard to know how you'll invert that, right? Like, and all of these numbers that you see of extreme user growth get very muddied when they're giving stuff away for free on the internet, right? Like once you're giving stuff too much away for free on the internet, all of your growth numbers they don't mean anything, right? Like it is like you are not beating Domino's because you're giving away free pizza outside Domino's. You're giving away free pizza outside Domino's. That's it. You have not built a healthier business than Domino's.
At the same time, like how VCs typically work, like they have a fund. This fund has a lifetime, and at some event in that lifetime, they want the money back. They want an exit or or something, and like being profitable in that case, it's not enough, right? They will want to see something. How do you think about the future of PlanetScale, given that it's not the youngest company anymore?
It's fairly young for a database company, I'll tell you that. Like if you look at the
True.
if you look at the true arc of infrastructure, Figma IPOing reminded me of this actually, and I remember how far along before they even had a product out in the world was like, what, 5 years? Because they were solving hard technical product problems before they went and built something. Database is the same. Mongo dragged along for a long time. Snowflake dragged along for a long time. It takes a while to build trust if you're going to build something that is enduring. And yeah, like every company wants an exit. It's much easier to get to that exit when you have a business with good numbers that is additive to any company that went and did those things. And obviously it aligns for everybody. But companies are built more slowly than people realize. I think when we sold GitHub to Microsoft, it was its 13th year. Figma's like 10 years. It just takes a long time, and longer than people imagine, to go and do these things. And the incentives are still aligned. The chance of you doing those, like, look at the AI thing, right? If we'd have just tried to flame out like everyone else and had died before AI, you can't catch luck if you're dead, right? You can't adapt when you're not around. And so when it comes to infrastructure, it's about enduring and building up something foundational that people can work with. It's also very good for beating out the companies that aren't profitable, because you can be much more strategic. You just wait. Like if I would build a Postgres market map, I could just scrub a third of it off because they won't be here in 2 years. They just won't, right? Like we're already seeing it. We've already seen database vendors just shutting down or running to other exits or whatever. We're not going to do that. We're going to build something that's enduring, and that's how we will return the most money to our investors and our employees.
Well said. With that in mind, so I remember the blog post. You guys are Series B funded now, right?
C.
Are you guys planning on doing D eventually, or is it just continuing the growth the way you guys are doing?
We might. Maybe.
Just depends.
It depends what the options are, right? If you don't have to raise money, I think it depends the problems you have to solve, right? Like we have a bunch of technical things that we need to get done, and we hire engineers to do those, and we are hiring. We're like hiring. I think we've hired like 10 people in the last month or so. So that headcount is going to sneak up a little bit, but it's great to raise investment when your problems now are like go-to-market problems, right? Like you need reach. You want to invest ahead of pipeline and ahead of revenue to go and pull people in. We have technical problems to solve right now, and we want to get our Postgres product out of private preview and then move on to the sharded product. So we may, I try not to be dogmatic about these things. I try to just do what I believe is the right thing. And if an investment is what's going to grow the business more quickly and lead to better outcomes for our customers, we'll take investment. If we don't need to do that, obviously that's a strong thing to do as well. There's so many companies that just invest massively over their skis because they have to, and it produces a worse outcome. Like this venture math is, you have to get really big, right? For it to work. And if you don't, and you've just if you've just diluted yourself out, even there's founders that could have sold their company for 200 mil and made more money than when they sold for. There's a bunch of $1 billion exits where the founders make much, much less than they would have made selling, even at the first acquisition offer that they got. It just depends what you're trying to build and what you're trying to do.
You know, when you see companies with young founders raising like 200 million, like there's two things I'm thinking about. One is they don't have experience in spending that money efficiently. And so what you're going to do with the money? And second, there will be expectations. Like the exit needs to be absolutely mental. And at that point, the big question is, will you ever get there, what's going to happen on the way there, and then in the end, to be honest, if you do that, I think your only chance is somehow sell secondary, somehow save something, like and put the money off the table, and other than that, it's a bit like when you watch these videos from from the rockets from Elon, and there's like if a rocket goes too fast, at some point it just disintegrates. And like the question is, how much money can you pour into a startup before it just blows up? Because I don't know, like, how do you actually manage 200 million? Like, I don't know. Like for us, we're quite small still. Like every hire counts, and you think about how you do things, and you think strategically. And if you had 200 million, I don't know, we would have so many people. Like I'm not sure if that makes sense.
Yeah, it really depends what you're doing, right? Like you just really, there's some people that can take that amount of capital and are in certain types of business where they can allocate that capital incredibly quickly and put it to work and make it work. Elon being a good example of this. But yeah, there's some companies that absolutely just explode because there's less consequences. Like when we want to be profitable, we want to be lean, you think about those things, right? Like you think about how you're going to spend this money and get an ROI from this money, versus these companies that you see just like explode, and then they're all over with spending 50 grand on marketing videos and stuff like that, and they never really track whether it comes back or makes anything, and it's fun, and it's just like it creates that romance story that Silicon Valley has, and people like it. And there's also just too much capital around this. There's someone was talking on Twitter about like VC market fit, which is like kind of apt, right? There's people. I don't think you see people tout these big rounds and these raises, and they think, oh, we're too big, we can't possibly fail. And there's just a graveyard of companies that were the hottest thing and then went to nothing. All of these are kind of things we should think about, meditations for all of us running companies, and to take those things very seriously. All I do know is that if you're going to sell databases to large companies, you have to be able to communicate to them that you've got a healthy future, and we're luckily able to do that. And good luck to our so-called competitors that have to figure that out for themselves.
Speaking of competitors, interesting question, because we're talking about VC market fit. What do you think of the acquisition of Neon by Databricks? So they raised over 100 million in funding. They had a way bigger team size than you. What did you think of that acquisition by, it's Databricks, I think, right?
Yeah, great. It was great for the Neon team. It was a good outcome.
I would agree.
Just selling your product and to anyone that's paying is an amazing milestone. Getting to $1 million of revenue is an incredible milestone. Getting to 20 million is an incredible milestone. Any company that goes through these milestones is amazing, but the main one, the big one, is some exit. I hate the word exit, but I just kicked the camera. I hate the word exit, by the way. Like, it just always triggers me. But yes, an exit or a form of liquidity for your employees is an amazing thing. So it's great. I'm like, congratulations to the Neon team for doing that. It's a very hard thing to do, and they achieved it. So I'm happy for them. It puts it sets some value of like how valuable growing Postgres companies are. So it's nice.
Awesome. Speaking of employees, you said you're 55 people, right?
Yeah, around that.
Okay. It's not easy to build a company of 55 people that moves in one direction. What is something where you would say this is something you as CEO you established in your company that really made the difference? Like what's it like working at PlanetScale, and how did you actually do it that people like it and they can perform and all of that?
Yeah, there's so many layers to that question. I think you have to really think about why people want to work at a tech company. Like, can they go and do the craft and the things that they are here to do well with as little kind of administrative burden as possible? And we focus really hard on that. We try and stay very low in terms of meetings, low on management overhead. We don't have like tons of managers running around. We think very carefully about what it means to be kind of a functional and performing employee at the company. And we treat our employees with a ton of respect, and we have them influence the things that they're here to influence, and we trust them. It's a very trust-based culture. We get subject matter experts for every area of what we're here to do, and give them immense freedom to go and do those things. We just don't like kind of micromanage them. I have run big teams. Like the largest team I ran, I think was about 400 people. And yeah, I mean, you can do all these things you need to do, the performance reviews, the people management and all that stuff. But if you have a small team of very good people and fit the culture around that, you can build a company that people like working at. Like if you work with other smart people that you find challenging, and then you learn and you grow, it becomes very addictive to go and do that and have influence. And that's the kind of feedback we get from folks. We'd miss the mark sometimes. You don't hire great people every time. And that's why we have, one of our values is no passengers, meaning we don't really tolerate people not kind of being here and working hard and being present and doing good work. And you have to kind of clean up those types of issues and let people go. And if you're fair about how you do that, then it kind of works. Another one is experts leading experts, which is we believe that everyone should be an expert in the field that they're at, and should be, you want to work for a boss that you know that you respect as an expert. So we don't have non-technical managers and things like that's just silly things like that.
Are you still writing code?
I do, but not really anything that goes into the critical path in production, because if I would not be able to make myself available to like be on call to kind of remediate those things. Plus, I'm probably the worst engineer at the company now, so that's not anything anyone's caught. No one's missing me writing code. But I've done a few small features or integrations or add-ons for our ecosystem and things like that. I'll fuck around with.
Yeah, like people are also sometimes annoyed when I write some code, or they make jokes about it, and similar.
It's fun. Like we've had some like niche MySQL issues that I've been able to like solve, or just remembered some similar things in the past, and it's always kind of funny when it's me that remembers that or whatever. But yeah, not a whole load.
The thing I love the most is when I get impatient, I wipe code something and then I throw it to the guys, and then they are super annoyed because they have to get it production ready.
Well, that's the best way to do it, right? It's like half come up with something that people sort of dislike, and then they'll go and tidy it up and fix it. One thing I do is I have access. Our customers give me access to their PlanetScale orgs, and I'll often work with them as a user, and so help them out a bit. I like joke it's like the most premium tier of support that we have, which is like I'll go and mess around with their stuff, and it's a really nice way of seeing from their side how interacting with the product is, and seeing any pain that we put them through.
Yeah,
that's awesome. It's dog fooding.
That's a good one. Another question I have is, so Vitess open source, it's a CNCF project, right?
Yes.
And like a while ago, there was like a situation between CNCF and the guys behind Nats, and what's the company called? Something with S.
I vaguely recall this. Yeah, no, I didn't pay much attention. Yeah, there was some drama, I think, though. I can't remember.
Yeah, so they somehow they wanted to pull out the project out of the CNCF and get more control over it. I don't even want to talk about that, but what I'm interested in is, what's your relationship with the CNCF, and what is it good that Vitess is a CNCF project, or is it neutral, or I don't know? Is it anything?
I think it's a good thing. I believe in open source. I believe if you're going to be open source, you should be really open source. Like there's types of licensing that I don't like, when they pretend they're open source when they're not, or whatever. But there's also licensing that I think is great and defends companies against companies like Amazon. And yeah, like there would be a downside if Amazon just stole our tech and went and started using it, right? And that was not a good thing, but that's kind of what you throw into when you do open source. And I think it's good to have these foundations and these bodies that protect open source and allow some purity to these projects. There is downsides generally from the model, but they're not specific to CNCF at all. And they're a great crew. Chris and the team over there are just fantastic, and they do something that's very difficult to do and wrangle a lot of the complexities that come with open source. And so, yeah, I don't see it really as a downside. I think it's good. It keeps us honest as an open source company.
And what are some open source licenses that you don't like? So like for us, just for context, we're licensed under Apache 2.0. Some of our competitors use BSL. I think BSL was created because of Mongo, right? Amazon went and took it. So what are some licenses that you like or don't like?
It's not that I guess I should have phrased that better. I don't dislike the license. I dislike the pretense, right? So
yeah,
BSL, for example, right? It's not an open source license. It is officially not recognized as an open source license. But there's companies that will do BSL and refer to themselves as open source. And I don't like that. Like, your code is open, that's fine, but you can't, I mean, you've blocked any contributors to that going and starting a rival company to you. That's not open source. That is not how that works. And so I don't like the kind of layering on top of, I think if there's a lot of people that have one-way relationships with open source and it's very take, and I don't like that. If you're going to use the glow and the incredible branding of what is one of the most amazing human achievements, which is the open source community. Like, you think the open source community is just a phenomenal human achievement. To be able to bask in the glory of that and use open source in terms of your branding and furthering your company, but holding back the actual license from being an open source license, I think is very wrong. So yeah, I don't really have a beef with a specific. There's some licenses that are just more. The GPL is annoyingly niche and has niche ramifications. At GitHub, we'd always just suggest people use the MIT license because it's the most simple and most open. But yeah, it's no specific license problems. It's more like the approaches people take by taking these non-open source licenses and claiming to be open source. I think it's very cheeky.
Do you have like a fork of, like an internal fork of Vitess, or is it just you use the open source Vitess? That's what you deploy.
We do have an internal fork, and it's really for simplicity, rather than we're not trying to do like a kind of premium thing where there's like a ton of features hidden. There's some stuff that's platform specific to us, which we don't even want to bend the Vitess project out of shape too much to be specific to PlanetScale. So we run our fork ourselves to kind of address some of those things. Same with our MySQL fork. It's open, but it's not like we push it out there for people to go and run it themselves. It just has the things we need to go and do our platform. But yeah, we run a fork, we do, but it's not the kind of here's like a super pared down thing in terms of Vitess. It's more like fit and functionality to work well with our platform, and it's things we wouldn't put into Vitess anyway. Everything we can upstream into Vitess, we absolutely do, and a lot of things just start with the Vitess code base and we get pulled into our fork.
Is there a possibility that someone could prevent you from merging something into the public Vitess repo?
If we didn't have control of the maintainership, then yeah. Yes, structurally.
You have control.
Yes, we are the maintainers of the project. Yes, nearly all the maintainers work for us.
By the way, I read something about the CNCF, and maybe I misunderstood it, but is it not like you need to have other companies who also contribute in a meaningful way?
Mm-hmm. And we do. Slack, HubSpot, Etsy, they all contribute. It's great. Uber have put a load of contributions into Vitess lately. it's fantastic. We absolutely do. We're very happy with. That's what makes it great, right? Like that's what makes it generalizable. You know, it means we get to listen and deal with the concerns that they have. It's fantastic.
When someone from Uber wants to merge something upstream, and you would have to spend a significant time to plan the feature, to review, to collaborate, etc., etc. Is that all something like I would get from you for free, or do I need to have a contract with you, or would you just spend time with me, or how are you handling these kind of relationships?
Yeah, you don't need to have a contract. Basically, we recommend, if you're going to send a very large change to Vitess, that you consult us first on the approach. Like there's some people that say, like people are generally fairly sensible. They'll like hit us up and say, you know, we're thinking Vitess should do this, and we'll tell them if we disagree. Like if someone shows up and say, we think we should change Vitess to be a Postgres compatible or Mongo compatible, we would say we disagree and we wouldn't accept patches that do that, right? On the other hand, if someone says we want to take this approach to do this thing, can you kind of guide us towards it? We'll say, yeah, absolutely, it's valuable. Or sometimes people show up with a bunch of functionality and we need to go back and forth a bit to kind of help them. Maybe they've missed certain ways of doing things that are already there that, you know, can just be tidied up, or we need to tidy up this implementation, or they haven't thought about a downstream effect that would affect a load of other people. They may not have thought about the elegant upgrade path or whatever, right? Like we help them think through those things, but that's part of the burden of running a really big open source project that has so many large companies that depend on it. You just have to kind of do that to keep the project healthy. Again, that's another hard dynamic for companies, right? It's this in or out thing. You have to take it super seriously when you maintain projects of this magnitude.
Yeah. You have a pretty decent score in terms of availability of your service. And like one thing I think we all agree, software has bugs.
Yep.
And when you change software, you introduce bugs. You fix some, you add some more. How can you actually ensure that whatever you're deploying, like you're not breaking your customer? Like what is happening like behind the scenes to be able to continuously contribute to a database project and not mess it up?
Yeah. So we're not perfect. We obviously do create bugs, and our software has bugs and has edge cases. I think it all begins with the acknowledgement that those things happen, right? Like if you're leveraging that you're going to create bug, like the idea that you're going to create bug-free software, you're going to make worse availability, right? There's a lot of stuff that comes down to our shared nothing architecture, meaning that we have no true single points of failure in the stack, meaning that you can incrementally roll things out in ways that get well tested, and you can roll things back very, very simply. We obviously start with a progressive kind of rollout and monitoring via our tooling that make that possible. And you just have to be very careful. You have to embrace a system that constantly changes. So no node at PlanetScale stays online for more than 29 days. Every single node expires after 29 days, meaning the whole environment is entirely ephemeral. And it makes you much, like all those little things that churning through connections, churning through state, all of those things that companies don't do often causes more outages for folks. The fact we do it constantly and the system is designed, and when you ship something to production, you have to account for the fact those things are going to happen. That's the special sauce.
Well said.
So with the 29-day expiry on all nodes, you kind of have Chaos Monkey embedded in the system, because it probably means that every day some nodes come, some go, and it's a continuous
every hour
recycling of nodes.
Yeah, we run at such scale that we have constant node failures, just constantly. Disks explode, like just constantly, and so it's great. I mean, the way you actually heal the infrastructure is you kill nodes. We have a PRS and ERS. A PRS is a planned repair and shard, and an ERS is emergency. Those are like the ways you fix most problems. If a node's misbehaving, rather than like coddling it and trying to figure out, just kill it, get rid of it, look through the logs, isolate and find out what actually truly happened. But the immediate fix is to kill it and have the cluster resolve back to a healthy state. When you've done that millions upon millions of times, you get something that's very robust. And it's the same with, again, back to airplanes, right? They just have done millions and millions of flight hours on very simple principles, and the components of the system are very well tested and stress tested. If you do that, you can gain continual leverage, and it's hard to compete with. It's very hard to start like it's from first principles and build systems like that without a lot of knowledge and expertise.
Yeah, but by the way, like when we're talking about like killing nodes and starting new nodes and something, what's the kind of scheduler behind the scenes? Like one of the most well-known schedulers for running things is like, for example, Kubernetes. But do you have some, like, do you use like an existing product, or have you built your own, or how do you?
Kubernetes. We by far run the most state in the world on Kubernetes. Like
Even with your Metal machines?
Yes.
So on Metal, you run Kubernetes?
Mm-hmm. There's extremely light. They run as pods, yeah, but there's extremely light VM layer on top of the Metal. So it's all scheduled and managed through that. So our Kubernetes operator is very advanced, and that's another part of our kind of special sauce that you get when you use our product.
It's funny. Have a good time talking with me. You got to meet our CTO.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's really funny because we did a survey, and like 50% of the people responding didn't believe you could run state on Kubernetes. And we're over here with petabytes of state on, and it's very possible. It's hard. It's not easy to do, but you get all these benefits. So yeah, we use Kubernetes in our Kubernetes operator. We're very cloud native, very much in the CNCF ecosystem there.
And what do you use as the virtualization layer on behind the scenes?
What is it that Amazon use? It's the Amazon. What is it they put on them?
You mean Firecracker?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Okay. That's a.
We can run on EKS. We run on Google's version 2. Yeah, it just fits in which specific to whichever cloud that we're running in, basically.
Okay. If you wouldn't be in PlanetScale today, would you start another database company? Would you ever recommend anybody starting a database company? Is it cool to run a database company, or would you do something else?
I think I do databases. Yeah, I don't know. I do something. I just like working at scale. You know, if I wasn't running a database startup, maybe I'd work at another product company that has a lot of scale, and that would be fun. I don't know though. Like, there's something about working at an infrastructure company that has all of these various customers that I find incredibly fun and interesting. Like, just seeing what our customers do and doing something that's so critical to them is really fun. You live like vicariously through your customers. It's like a real kick to like, yeah, I mean, we just signed up a customer that is a product in the physical world that I use all the time. And it's really fun to know that like the things you're doing
are powered,
powered by your product. It gets really addictive. Or sending a Slack message, or it just feels really fun.
I tell that to my wife all the time. Like, we'll be walking by and I'll be like, "Oh, their website powered by WunderGraph," or like this retail store, like that stuff is powered by WunderGraph. And she's like, "Do you get discounts?" I'm like, "Well, no, not like that, but still."
Yeah. No, it's exactly that. You go, you drive past a billboard, it just feels nice, and you become really loyal to your customers too. You feel really grateful to them. It's lovely.
I agree. And Jens, I have one question though. So go ahead. We have one more. We have time for one more, but go ahead.
Is it about the scale by itself, or the complexity of the problem, or is it really you like to be part of these companies, to be powering them, or like what's
it's all of those. Like, the complexity comes from scale, but like databases or any tech stuff that's not at scale just is real boring to me. Like, this is the issue with database world, right? Like, there's the academic end, which they obviously have significant contributions, But you see these like hot new databases or whatever that do all these little like these fun whizzy features, and just can't scale at all. It's like, okay, that's the boring. I mean, do you know what I mean? We can all pretend we're an aircraft, or we sit in a box and go make plane noises. Like, it's actually putting real stuff on the line. People backing real products is the bit that's hard. Like, there's just. I watched a customer spin up a cluster the other day that was a single database cluster with about 500 nodes in it, right? So they pressed one button, and behind the scenes, all of our orchestration starts across 3 zones, hitting Amazon to start spinning up machines, and just watching 500 servers orchestrate, spin up, get a clean version of our infrastructure, report for duty, and immediately act in unison to provide to like serve a database through one connection string. It's just so fucking cool. Like, it just was so nerdy. Like, you just go, wow. Like, you know what I mean? It's just this orchestration of, I've always just loved this, seeing all these nodes kind of like dance together, come together and do one thing. It's just amazing to me. And it's just beautiful. And I just love it so much. It just feels so satisfying. Like, same with GitHub. You just get hooked to, you get, it's fun. It's living dangerously, deploying a website that I remember the first time, like when I was onboarding at Facebook, like deploying pushing code that was about to get deployed to Facebook for billions of users. And you're just like, it just feels so cool. It feels so meaningful. It's hard to go back and do anything differently. I'm glad other people do, but for me, it's all theory until it works at extreme scale.
Do you have like a cool visualization layer or something where you can see like all the PlanetScale nodes across the globe or something?
No, we don't. This is the thing. We're very we're too utilitarian for that stuff. We don't do any of the flashy bits. We just make it work. I mean, our UI is very beautiful. Jason and the team have done a phenomenal job of making it look lovely, and it looks really nice. But it's very simple. It kind of, I don't know. It doesn't make you. And even when you get tempted sometimes to we could make some really cool visualization, show everyone all of these nodes orchestrating together, and then we just go back to doing other things that it's really hard to fight the temptation to make all that fancy stuff. But no, you really just see it in a terminal or a graph or something, and it's cool.
Maybe if you want to do some cool marketing stunt, there's from, I think, GitHub, there's like this animation. They have like a globe, and you can see all the commits, whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe you could do like a globe where I can see all the PlanetScale nodes coming up and down, like green and red. And
yeah, I have thought. I actually started messing around with a bit like a sort of like dots that represent each one of our nodes, and then as they flip, they change colors and stuff. I may do something similar to that. It depends. But the thing is, problem is, people, when you put stats like we announce large customers migrating, and I don't want people to be able to correlate change with those. Like, people are very sensitive about data and the scale of what they do. We just have to be very careful because of what we put out there. But I do try and think of ways we can represent that. And sometimes, we've got one customer that's going to talk publicly about the scale they run out on PlanetScale, and I think some of those numbers will really impress people.
Well said. And then we got a comment from somebody in the audience. But the last one that I wanted to kind of end on, so we are a little bit over, but Sam, we can't end the episode without talking about AI. And so how do you see AI interacting with databases? Has MCP changed how PlanetScale conducts its day-to-day? Have you guys adopted tools like Cursor, Windsurf, things like that? How do you just see AI in databases? It's lovely. Yeah. I mean, AI has had an effect on databases in many ways. One way is that, there's this new type of database which are not really for production usage, but they're like fit for AI. They spin up quickly and serverless and all this sort of stuff, and that's kind of interesting. It's not really what we do, but it's added a different set of constraints for what AI needs. The impact it's had on us as large companies creating lots of data that they need for AI and wanting to keep hold of their data, as well as AI companies. Cursor is a customer of ours, and we use Cursor, so it's really fun to
be in the loop. And there's some new features they're shipping that we have access to that we're integrating with, and that's extremely cool itself. Like there's just, it's impacting databases in so many ways. One of them being that we're using a ton of AI to actually write the software that we use, and that's fun, and it's creating new usage patterns and new things at scale, and that's extremely fun. Yeah, it's just brought more load, more demand, more concurrency, and that's, to me, makes for more fun database problems, which I love, which I really love. It's had a fantastic impact on all of us, really.
Well said. Jens, any final questions before we wrap up?
I think this episode was super interesting.
Thank you for having me.
No, Sam, this was absolutely fantastic. So for the audience, guys, we are back next week at our regular scheduled time. We actually might move it to be 1 p.m.
No, Stefan, that's not how we do it.
Okay, what's the good thing?
The good thing is, well, no, we're not back next week, right?
Well, I am. But regardless, Sam, thank you so much for joining us. Honestly, this was a really, really exciting discussion. I'm excited about the future of PlanetScale. I'm excited about what you guys are building with AI, and just congratulations to your success so far. And thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, folks. Really fun being here.
Awesome.
Thanks. We'll see you guys. Bye,
Cheers.
guys.
Bye.